Welcome to Steelers Wrap Up.
Welcome Insider KDKA Studios for Steelers Wrap Up. I'm your host, Rich Walsh, alongside our Steelers Insider, Gerry Dulac. Definitely wasn't a fun night in Cleveland last night. We were both there. The weather was miserable, and so was the Steelers' play, losing to an inferior Cleveland Browns team. Gerry, a team they've had problems with recently, specifically Thursday nights, and you could tell early on it would be a long night for the Steelers. A game like this, we can be very critical of the ending, and I know we both are, but I personally think they lost this game early on by keeping this Browns team in the game.
Well, Rich, you're right about that, and they not only kept them in the game, the Browns took the lead, obviously, at 10-3, but to me, this game was lost in the fourth quarter because the Steelers came back. The fact that they came back from 18-6 down in those weather conditions, and to me was remarkable, and they take the lead at 19-18. And the defense, once again, it's the third time in 6 games, they failed to close out the game. I mean, they got away with it at Baltimore, but they're not shutting the team down at the end when they have the opportunity. And it happened again against the Browns, the lowest scoring team in the AFC. They allowed them to score 24 points, Rich. That was only the second time all year they've scored more than 18 points in a game. To me, it was a failure of the defense to close that game out after the offense came back in that snowstorm.
Yeah, incredible. There were some questionable decisions by Mike Tomlin, especially at the end. And a play I question, I think every Monday morning quarterback does. There was so much chaos during that Browns illegal touching penalty, but no matter what the decision was, the defense couldn't get the stop in the most important moment of the game.
Yeah, Rich, I don't agree with the decision that Mike Tomlin made right there. I understand the confusion early on because the official signaled not only a legal touch but intentional grounding, and so at that point, you accept the penalty, but decline the penalty because it's intentional grounding. It's loss of down, but. Pushing him back, Mike Tomlin said he just wanted to maybe create a longer field goal into the wind. Rich, if it were a 15-yard penalty, I would take the penalty. But it was a 5-yard penalty that really ended up being a 4-yard penalty. There's no difference. Why do you give the team another down? To me, it was a bad decision.
Yeah, I agree. We can question a few decisions last night, and we will, but right now let's take a look back at another Steelers loss in Cleveland in this special Friday edition of Steelers Monday.
There's a notion this might be a trap game. The Steelers will somehow and in some way fall flat tonight against the Browns.
The weather wasn't pretty, and neither was the Steelers' offense early on in Cleveland.
Wilson gets the snap, back, looking, and now in trouble and taken down. Myles Garrett got him from the backside and hauled him down.
We needed 1 or 2 more plays.
We had our splash plays, but because they just had more.
Russ wasn't cooking, but Myles Garrett was.
Under pressure, loses the ball. Strip, and the Browns are there to get it. Myles Garrett came in. He extracted it.
They made more plays than us at the end of the game, and that's what it came down to.
Garrett helped Cleveland jump out to a 12-point fourth quarter lead, but then the winds shifted.
Still snowing, still swirling around here. Fields gets the snap. We'll give to Warren, and Warren into the end zone. Unbelievable.
We just had to stay the course, and we answered when we needed to. Obviously, late in the game there, where we answered in the fourth quarter was pretty special.
The offense woke up, and the defense put the pressure on.
Winston, play action pass, hit from behind. The ball's loose, and it is pounced upon by the Steelers. It is Herbig who came up with a hit from the backside, and the Steelers have recovered it.
Oh, Nick Herbig comes around from the back end. Blindside shot.
And the Steelers defense running down to the end zone in front of the Steelers faithful, doing snow angels. Back to pass, looking, throws to the left, wobbling up, and it's intercepted. Dante Jackson has it for the Steelers. Another turnover.
Getting out there trying to make plays, but yeah, they made timely plays when it mattered most. So hats off to those guys.
A couple key decisions by Mike Tomlin late in the game backfired. A gamble to Pickens failed.
Illegal touching of the pass.
And so did accepting a penalty late to give the Browns offense another third down.
Winston, time, lofting, and he has Judy open, and Judy tumbles to the ground, makes the reception, and he's inside the 15-yard line.
The distance was more important to us. If it wasn't grounded, we wanted to move them 5 yards back. They were potentially kicking into the wind, and so we wanted to stop them and make the field goal a longer one.
One big mistake on the lake in Cleveland.
I mean, it sucks. You always want to be the rival, especially on the road. Yeah, it sucks.
It definitely stings. I mean, especially when you look at it being the divisional game.
We got a lot of football left. We got a lot of opportunity to respond in the highest way, highest level. Everything that we want is still in front of us.
The clock has expired, and the Browns have upset the Steelers.
The Steelers' Thursday night woes continue in Cleveland on this Steelers Monday on a Friday.
Question. It was a tough locker room last night. We were both there, and it definitely stings for the Steelers. When you take a look at the final stats, the Steelers have the edge in most categories, except the most important one, the final score. Steelers won the turnover battle, better on third downs, more yards. Very strange game. If you will look at these stats without the score, you would think the Steelers won this game. Now, I guess the biggest issue last night, we saw Cam Hayward coming off the field, very visibly upset. You would think the Steelers defense would have been great in a game like this. They came up with big plays, the key moments to get the offense back in this one, but couldn't stop that third down that led to their final TD, and also could keep the Browns out of the end zone at the beginning of the fourth quarter, 10-play, 65-yard drive. What happened to this bend, don't break defense?
Rich, not only was it allowing the Browns to go over more than 18 points for only the second time this season, Browns came into the game, with the having allowed the most sacks in the league, 46 sacks, and the Steeler defense sacked Jameis Winston just once, 6 quarterback hits. That is just not enough. The only time they got pressure was when Patrick Queen hit him on the play when they had the illegal touch and the alleged intentional grounding. But that was the other big issue with this team, just not getting enough pressure. And on that 3rd and 6 play, Steelers rushed 4 players. Jameis Winston had plenty of time to throw to Gerry and for that 15-yarder down to the Steeler 9. The lack of pressure on this team with the Browns allowing so many sacks. And Rich, they were down to their 4th left tackle. And so the Steelers did not capitalize on that. Big problem for them.
Yeah, a lack of big plays from their stars, too. Now, let's hear from Mike Tomlin, who was not too happy after last night's loss.
Mike, they sacked Russ 4 times, I think 3 in the first half. What were they doing that was effective?
I guess that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying it took us too long to warm up to the action. They brought it, and they brought it instantly early on. Thought we settled down and got competitive, but as you mentioned, it produced some negativity, particularly in the first half.
Can you explain what happened on that call where you ended up accepting the penalty after they said you declined? Why did you accept?
I thought it was a grounding. Initially, I couldn't hear the officials. I thought it was a grounding. When I realized that it wasn't ruled a grounding, I got information from them and made the call that we wanted to make. The distance was more important to us. If it wasn't grounding, we wanted to move them 5 yards back. They were potentially kicking into the wind, and so we wanted to stop them and make the field goal a longer one.
Like, what were they able to do in the middle of the field with the passing game?
I don't know that I felt a lot of things there. I'd have to look at the tape. I don't know that it was a consistent pattern there. They made some plays.
Mike, is there a common denominator to the short yardage struggles you guys have had, particularly on 3rd and 4th and short?
I'd have to take a look at it, but more than anything, I thought they brought it tonight in those instances, particularly there early on.
You do want to put yourself in a position to have a 4th down and have them kick the field goal rather than go for third and long?
Again, I wanted to back them up to make it a more problematic kick for them based on the conditions with them kicking into the wind.
All right, trends matter, especially when you're talking about short weeks. You can see Tomlin not great on Thursdays, 2-9, a 1-82 win percentage, and on the road versus AFC North, they're 0-5, 0-4 on the road in Cleveland, and you compare that to all other games, it's a .653 winning percentage. I don't know why that is, but they're not good when they don't have enough time to prepare for teams. And one thing I want to question is the lack of timeouts and when they should have used them. They should have used the timeout at the end of the first half, and they didn't, and maybe should have used the timeout at the end of the game.
Rich, I had some bigger issues with other things in terms of personnel, in terms of predictability, and in terms of how much they use Justin Fields. I'm all for using packages with him. I think they used him one too many plays. Why he is in the game on 3rd and 4 on that series that just was 3 and out and led to that bad punt. At that point in time, you have Russell Wilson throwing heated darts in that snowstorm and leaving Justin Fields in on 3rd and 4 to throw it deep down the field to George Pickens, which had no chance of being completed. I don't understand that at all.
Yeah, neither do I, and I know we're going to be talking about that coming up, but we're just getting started here. Steelers wrap-up. Gerry and I return with a deeper look at the offense coming up after the break.
Welcome back to Steelers Wrap-Up.
We should have won that game. We felt like we battled. We fought our butts off, and you know, it was a tough environment. Obviously, we wanted to win this one, but unfortunately, we came up short.
All right, welcome back to Steelers Wrap-Up. I'm Rich Walsh, and that's Gerry Dulac. You know, the one knock on Russell Wilson was him holding onto the ball too long. Do you think that's the case here? 4 sacks last night, 3 Myles Garrett.
Yeah, you know, Rich, we saw this happen last week against the Ravens in the first half. He was sacked 4 times, and when he's holding the ball longer than 3 seconds, that's what happens in those instances. You just can't continue to hold the ball in the National Football League for more than 3 seconds, especially when you know Myles Garrett is on the other side. So that's part of it, and part of it, though, Rich, there are protection issues up front. There's no doubt about it, because that pocket is collapsing, as we see right there. That pocket collapses pretty quickly.
Plain and simple, why are the Steelers so bad in short yardage situations? I mean, I don't have the stats in front of me, but they got to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. They can't get 1 yard when they need it the most. There were 4th and shorts they couldn't get, 3rd and shorts that they couldn't get, and they have supposed to have a good run game. That's what this offense is predicated on, right?
And that's what's strange about it, Rich, because they do run the ball fairly well. Let's face it, with the amount of yards that they rush for, over 100 yards in all but 1 game this year. But it's hard to say. But I will say this, though, too, Rich, in general. And I noticed this again last night. They've become too predictable with their play calling. By that I mean, it's okay to throw 1 pass after you've just thrown another. But when you watch them, they throw a pass, they get a first down, or they move the chains, then they hand the ball off. It's okay to throw multiple passes consecutively, and I think that's what they need to do to help the run game. But I think teams start they start getting accustomed to tendencies, and then they start picking up on it.
You know exactly what they're going to do on 4th and 2 when you have Justin Fields and Connor Hayward in the backfield. Justin Fields is getting the ball, right?
Yeah, and Michael Pruitt's in the game, and so again, I think some of their personnel groupings are tipping off what they're doing.
All right, time to switch sides of this football. A look at the defense is up next, right here on Steelers Wrap-Up.
Welcome back to Steelers Wrap-Up.
Opportunities. We have to eat it. They made more plays at the end. Just take it, move on. I know everybody's pretty pissed off about the loss, but we got to learn from it and be better next time.
Well, at least they have a couple extra days to move on. Leading tacklers right here, you have Patrick Queen, and then I think it says a lot when you have 2 defensive backs that are next. Where is that front, especially in a game like this? And, the one thing that was critical last night, the Browns, for some reason, this awful offense was 4 for 4 on 4th down.
Yeah, Rich, and that was big. People point to the fact that, well, the Browns were 1 for 10 on 3rd down. That doesn't matter, because a lot of times they're going to play differently on 3rd down when they know they're going to go on 4th down. Sometimes their play calling is different on 3rd down. So if it's 3rd and 9, they're just trying to maybe make it 4th and 2 because they know what they're going to do. The mere fact that they didn't stop them 4 for 4 on 4th down was a whole lot more important than 1 for 10 on 3rd down.
Is it concerning to you that Hayward, Watt, guys like that were kind of invisible?
Rich, Cam Hayward had 6 tackles, and you got to remember, in this 34 defense, it's designed for linebackers to make tackles, so it's not surprising that Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson are among the leading tacklers, Landon Roberts most games. So when that happens, I mean, that's the way this defense is set up. Cam Hayward's never going to really have a game with 10 tackles. It's just that's not the way this defense is designed. So to me, that's not alarming.
All right. One of the stars last night, if we're going to look at something positive, was Nick Herbig. Right. We both had a chance to talk to him in the locker room afterwards, but, he had that critical sack at a key moment that really changed the momentum of the game, and that forced fumble. He's been I don't want to say a surprise, but he's been solid this year.
Yeah, Rich, I'm not going to sit here and say he's as disruptive as T.J. Watt, but when you consider how much or / little he plays as a backup, The amount of big plays this guy makes is really something, and that's a T.J. Watt type of play, not only with the way he stripped the ball, the fact that that moment when he did it after Steelers were coming back, that sets up the go-ahead touchdown. That's a big-time play by Nick Herbig, and we've seen him do that repeatedly.
Yeah, I still think the Steelers are missing Alex Highsmith. You should get him back in a couple weeks, which should help in situations like red zone defense, where the Browns were 75% against this bend, don't break defense.
Imagine if the Steelers were that good offensively.
Yeah,
which might be a different tune we're talking about right now.
But is that a problem? I mean, is this just maybe a one-off here?
Rich,
or?
Of course it is, because that's your defense not making stops in key moments, just as the same as on the final drive, not making the plays to get off the field. And there's no question about it. You know, you don't want that type of conversion rate. You don't even want 50% in the red zone, Rich. The good teams are right around 25 or 30% tops. And so, yeah, when they're converting 3 out of 4 chances in the red zone, not a good percentage.
Can they do something a little different? Should they blitz more? Should they put a little more pressure when these teams get into the red zone?
You know, Rich, to me, their lack of pressure has become a bit of a problem. You know, they're on pace for 39 sacks. That's going to be their fewest since 2016. That used to be their staple, getting to the quarterback and getting him on the ground, and it's just not happening.
Do you think they're relying too much on turnovers, or coming up with a big momentum-changing play like this defense has done all year?
Rich, I don't think you can rely on it, because you can't just say, hey, let's go out and get a turnover. It just doesn't work that way, because they can tend to come in bunches. But you can predict them and you can't plan for them. But they probably hope and expect their stars, Minkah Fitzpatrick, T.J. Watt, maybe even Nick Herbig, because of the way he does it, to hopefully make those plays. But you can't just sit there, script it, and say, okay, let's get a turnover.
Yeah. All right, time to take a look ahead. When we return, Gerry and I have a look at the AFC North standings, as well as the Steelers' upcoming schedule down the stretch.
Welcome back to Steelers Wrap Up.
Well, the Steelers still have a game-and-a-half lead over the Ravens, 8-3. The Ravens are 7-4. The Steelers head to the 4-7 Bengals, who are in must-win mode right now next Sunday. And the Browns were gifted another win last night, improving to 3-8, but still in the basement of the AFC North. When you look at these standings right now, I mean, if you would ask me at the beginning of the year, I would have been like, yeah, this is great for the Steelers. But the losses are what stand out to me. You shouldn't have lost to Cleveland, and you could have won the Dallas game, and you shouldn't have lost at Indy.
You know, Rich, you can't look at it that way, because the Ravens could sit there and say they lost to the Raiders and the Browns in the same season, and who would have expected that from the Baltimore Ravens? So, I mean, that's going to happen. You know, the Steelers positioned themselves very nicely with this 8-2 start. If they lost 3 of their final 7 games, that's 12-5, Rich, and that's probably the division title in a home playoff game. There's going to be at least another loss, and if there's 2, it's really not going to hurt them. Probably just don't want it to be to the Ravens, but after beating them, that won't matter either.
Well, they're still in pretty good shape. The Steelers' schedule is tough down the stretch, but not as tough as we originally thought. The Bengals have the ability to get hot, 4-7, and the Browns, again, 2 winnable games. Then things get really tough. What are your thoughts on those final 6 games?
Well, Rich, the game in Philly against the Eagles, who are playing as well as any team right now in the National Football League, and of course the Chiefs, those are the other 2 non-division games, and those are as difficult as you're going to get. One on the road, 1 at home. So that makes it even doubly difficult with the Ravens on the schedule as well.
Yeah, 3 wins would do it. Split down the stretch. Almost out of time here on Steelers Wrap Up. Gerry and I have a look around the league when we return right here on KDKA TV.
Welcome back to Steelers Wrap Up.
All right, the Bengals are off this week, but everyone around here will be paying attention to that Monday night matchup between the Ravens and Chargers. The Chargers are still very much in this race at 7-3 and have a defense that might be able to contain Lamar Jackson. What are you going to be watching this weekend,
Yeah,
Gerry?
Rich, the Chargers are the only team that allows fewer points than the Steelers. The Ravens-Chargers game, of course, and then the Ravens after that have the Eagles. So, you know, if the Ravens lose to the Chargers, Rich, Steelers are back to their game-and-a-half lead in the division. So, you know, no harm, no foul. And again, the Ravens are probably kicking themselves after losing to the Raiders and the Browns as well.
Yeah, there's no question about that. I'll be paying attention to that game on Monday night, just like all the Steelers fans. No Steelers game this Sunday, but join me and Gerry along with Bob Pompiani and Charlie Batch for Steelers kickoff at 11:30. 12:30 on KDKA, NFL Today at noon. And you can watch the Chiefs and Panthers on KDKA at 1 o'clock, followed by the NFL Today postgame show. And as always, we wrap up the day with the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown after the late news on KDKA. That is Sunday. Final thoughts and maybe about the Bengals game next Sunday.
Rich, I wouldn't panic. Anybody, if you told them at the beginning of the season, would they be 8-3 at this point? They'd take it and run. I think it's okay.
All right, that's it for us tonight on Steelers Wrap Up. Thanks for watching. For Gerry Dulac, I'm Rich Walsh. Have a great night, and we will see you same time, same place for Steelers Wrap Up next week.